On Thursday, Washington state lawmakers introduced their first statewide billionaire wealth tax, which would institute a 1% state wealth tax on the portion of billionaire fortunes over $1 billion.
So founder and CEO of Gravity Payments, Dan Price, he joins us now to discuss the bill and what it could mean for the state. And Dan took a pay cut to make sure that all of his employees received a $70,000 minimum salary. Thanks for joining us, Dan. Really appreciate it. Been following your work for quite some time.
Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, Dan, as the CEO of a company, it's yourself. You've long advocated for more equitable pay for workers, and now you're advocating for this law. Why do you think that this law is important in your home state of Washington and a similar law that we would enact nationwide?
Well, we have the most progressive tax laws in the entire United States, which basically means the people that make the most the people that make the least pay the most, and the people that make the most pay the least. So it's just a total handout for billionaires. And in fact, the people that pay the lowest tax rate in Washington state, believe it or not, are Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. Like, who would think of that? And if that's not a big enough reason to do it right there, an even better reason is we have a $3.3 billion budget shortfall. The lawmakers have to find that money somewhere. And basically you can cut like schools and kids programs and education, health in a pandemic. You can take it from small businesses. You can take it from our dwindling middle class. I mean, none of this stuff makes any sense. So the obvious solution is that you take it from billionaires, and just with a 1% tax that would cost them almost nothing. Literally, Jeff Bezos talks about his Amazon winnings. It would cost him 1 week. And so does it make more sense to charge Jeff Bezos 1 week of how he's bragging about how he has so much money he couldn't spend it on anything here on Earth, so he has to have a space program? Does it make more sense to take 1 week from that or to gut small businesses during a pandemic? I mean, it just seems very obvious to me.
It certainly does.
So explain to me how this happens. Washington state is broadly seen as a blue state, a liberal state. You've got Democrats in control of every branch of government. How do you end up with the most regressive tax system in the entire country when you've got Democrats running everything?
It's the stuff that you and Sagar are talking about every day, Crystal. It's the structural reforms that we need, because basically the billionaires and the people on top in Washington state, they have created these long-term structural hurdles to an equitable system. So the deck is stacked in their favor. So you can have a situation where 70, 80% of the people agree on the right thing to do, and yet we still can't do it. So in Washington state, they have constitutional amendments that are required for income taxes. The nice thing about this one is it has the backing of Noel Frame, who is my lawmaker here in Seattle. It also has the backing of Pat Sullivan. She is the House Majority Leader. And so, you know, we have really strong backing for this, and it does not require a constitutional amendment. But there are so many hurdles, and so ultimately we need those long-term structural reforms to be put into place the same way we do at a national level, because they are stacking the deck for the billionaires so they can exploit everybody else.
And so are you hopeful that this will actually ultimately pass? Obviously, if you polled it in the state, I'm sure it would be wildly popular, but do you think it will get through?
I think so, but, you know, I'm going to be testifying next Tuesday down in Olympia, our state capital, and I'm going to look at those lawmakers, and I'm basically just going to tell them the truth. Like, if you don't not stand in the way of this bill, but support it, then it's pretty obvious what your priorities are. You'd rather get invited to the Jeff Bezos cocktail hour than you would save your voters, save your middle class, save your small businesses. And so I think that's the type of pressure that we need to apply, because their greatest gift on their side, the thing that if this doesn't pass, it'll be not because they oppose it, but because they just bury on procedural grounds and never take up the question. So we need to really hold their feet to the fire. And unlike the two people that are sponsoring this, you know, we do have a lot of, you know, stiff suits that are lawmakers. And so we need to basically put that pressure on them to do the right thing.
Last question for you, Dan. Where can people find out more about the bill, how to pressure lawmakers, and your own campaign again on this?
Yeah, I have all the links on my Twitter, and you can Google it. But we're really excited about this because, you know, at a time when we need to be there for our regular people, for our small businesses, for our middle class, and even more for the most vulnerable people, all of that detail is on my Twitter and in the bill.
Awesome.
Great to have you, Dan. Thank
Thanks,
you
Dan.
so much. Great to see you. We'll have more Rising for you after this.